Hi guys, it's Joy, and we've had so much going on since like Friday. I completely forgot that Onision Docuseries episode 3, the last one, just came out. So I think I'm gonna do at least 2 or 3 videos on what I saw there. And to be honest, that will probably close my Onion chapter, at least for now, because honestly, I don't think there's anything else to talk about. I mean, I know me, I can always find things, right? But to me, this was kind of the next big step of evolution that hopefully this goes mainstream. And I mean, we can argue that because let's be honest, is Discovery Plus really mainstream? You know, it's just on their streaming platform. But I think it's a step in the right direction towards being able to get this out to more people. I'm going to save a lot of what I have to say for other videos, but let's just say the last episode, there are a lot of inaccuracies. There's a lot of interesting stuff. All the video on this probably tomorrow. Chris Hansen comes for YouTubers and YouTubers come for Hansen. And it is a delight to see, especially from me, who I've, as you guys know, and I'm kind of battling what I want to say on it because I don't want to be somebody that's really getting in a bunch of YouTube fights. And you know what? For people who do that to grow their channels for views, for attention, like, I'm not knocking you. More power to you, right? I was never somebody that really wanted to get in fights with people. The only people I was fine to go at were people like Onision, people who I thought were, you know, not real nice to women and children. Please infer, right? Those people I was like, okay, so all bets are off, right? But I know there was a time when I came on YouTube and I was very angry about what happened to me. And I was very defensive. I defended myself. My goal wasn't, it probably seemed attacking. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to defend myself. But because I didn't defend myself very often to people that were hurtful to me, it took me time to kind of understand the best way to do that. As well as, you know, the other part is just not being sick and being scared of not being on the planet all the time and what was going on with my body. Like, y'all don't know, I was really not well. Like, I was really close a few times to not being here, and then nobody believed me. So there was just a lot of emotional chaos going on in me that is no longer there. But I do think it's interesting because I think a lot of us didn't know if the documentary would address any of the YouTube criticism. And it does to an extent, but obviously it doesn't really go all the way with it. And I think there were things that were misleading in this across the board. I still think at the end of the day, I'm happy it's out. I'm glad it's out. I wish it could be out to more people, but there are issues with it. So I'm going to stick today, though, to what I really wanted to say, and you saw the title of this video. They kind of allude to in the video that it seems like there's actually some evidence that Onion is abusive to Lainey. And now here's the thing. We have had Onision, and this was in 2017 when I was covering Onision. We've had him admit that he's verbally abusive to her. In fact, you guys remember when Jacqueline Glenn came out and said that Onision pays Lainey to be verbally abusive to her? That when he's verbally abusive, they have an agreement where she gets paid. And you know how, like, we've heard this before with Onion in this situation too, where when Lainey, or sorry, Kai, I did it again. I'm sorry, guys, Kai. I'm trying. I didn't even think about it. Well, I didn't even remember in the beginning. Like, it's just memory so blank about it. Kai, who was Lainey back then, but is now Kai. So if the person is now Kai, you're supposed to refer to them back then as the person now, right? I think that's the rule. Something about naming, right? Like not naming or something. I forget. I'm trying. I'm old and I'm sick, y'all. I'm trying. Oh, shoot. What was my point of view? That's the other thing is I'm trying to do this. I'm going to lose track of the video. So I'm trying to be respectful. Because regardless of what I feel about somebody, I think we should all do our best to be as respectful to people as possible within what we can do, right? So Kai, and we've heard these things about Kai, that Kai kind of, you know, demands or wants gifts when they're hurt from people. There, right? There. I think I did that right. Or when Kai's hurt from people. So this would make sense. But what's interesting is they start showcasing phone calls and reports of people calling in. And I'll be honest, when you first hear it, it's kind of jarring and it's kind of disturbing. And a lot of it's raising questions, not just about what Onision has done, but also about Kai themselves and what Onision is doing to Kai. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look. I have some clips I want to show you guys, and then I want to give you some information and my perspective on it all, and then we can discuss. Here we go.
Communications, how can I help you?
Yeah, hi. I would like to call in a welfare check for a neighbor.
Communications, how can I help you?
I was wondering if there was a way I could, ask for a mental health check on someone.
Okay, what's the address that you're requesting a check on at?
You guys have been out to this neighborhood a few times for this particular address.
Communications, how may I help you?
It's this guy. He's an internet personality, and they've been posting a lot of very concerning videos lately.
Communications, may I help you?
He posted a meltdown video of him just really freaking out and acting really creepy, and I can't stop thinking about it.
Communications, how may I help you?
Just it's sexually violent. Things like promise me you won't pass out. I want to hear you scream. Stand in front of the window over there. The world should see how pathetic and helpless you are. I'm going to humiliate you.
I can't sit by and watch this anymore. I have to let someone know.
911, what are you reporting?
It looks like argument going down at a house, maybe 30s, white male and a short-haired, sort of androgynous-looking female.
Okay, did you see anything physical between the two of them?
I saw what maybe looked like some sort of, shoving. It looks like a pretty heated argument.
Well, that looked intense. Okay, I'm gonna say a few things off the bat. So what we hear without the context of it, I'll be honest, doesn't sound good, right? People calling in, saying a lot of these things, even what it seems like reports of neighbors saying that they're fighting, this, that, and the other. Here's the thing, though. He said, if you heard what Chris Hansen said, we got a stack of documents, right, about all these different phone calls. Okay, well, were those people, who were they? First of all, some of these calls, I'm just going to be honest with you, a lot of these calls just sound like concerned people watching YouTube videos, which more power to them if that's what they want to do. And then some of these calls sound like it's neighbor accounts, right? It'll sound like accounts, get in front of the window, without your clothes. I want the world to see how pathetic and helpless you are. That sounds like it's an eyewitness account of something they're hearing and seeing from that home. But did you notice? We didn't hear if that was a neighbor or who that was. And then there's somebody who says, I want to, and you will hear some calls, I want to check on a neighbor. How do we know that person's really a neighbor? How do we know that that person isn't calling anonymously? Because you can call anonymously. I say this only because I had a handful of occasions being on YouTube when people thought it was completely okay to just pick apart my life and harass my real life, right? When that happened, I had the police called to my house a few times for wellness checks and this and that. And it was anonymous people from YouTube just trying to mess with me. People call in and they'd say there's something about a threat or something, or just all kinds of stuff. And so at the time, my police department somewhat, they didn't know me, but they knew that there was a history with my place of people calling and making really ridiculous claims. That is a really unfortunate part of when you're on YouTube, stuff that will happen. Your privacy will get invaded time and time again. Sometimes it's because people are just wanting to troll you. They get off from it. They want to laugh. Sometimes it's because people think you're just horribly evil and they want to do anything they can to mess with you. Some people are just awful and they think it's funny to just try to mess with you and your life. There's a lot of people that are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, that hide behind them trolling. Not all. I'm not saying everybody who trolls, but there's a lot of mental illness that goes on with this type of stuff, right? That goes unchecked. So I have a hard time taking recorded calls and making anything of it. Now, there was one at the end that was kind of disturbing, right? It was it looks like they're fighting, they're shoving, this, that, and the other. Was it really a neighbor? Here's my other thing. We saw on this Chris Hansen, he actually, he and his caravan of reporters or whatever, not caravan of reporters, but his team, right? His filming team. They go to Onision's house to film, going up and knocking on the door, right? Well, you can see, at least this is from what it looked like to me, that when they were going up, it seems like Onision's house, it's not super, it's not like his other houses where it's huge and elaborate, but it's a modest house. And it seems like it's kind of far back into a private area, even their street says you can't go, this far away. I think it's 50 feet within their home, right? So how I'm just wondering if the neighbors are really in approximation to be able to sing over there. I would assume, I'm just going to assume, Onision, one of the reasons they got the house that they did when they, had to downsize was probably for privacy reasons. They probably made sure to do a lot to try to protect their privacy. That's just my assumption. My whole thing is to say, we can't know from what we're hearing on this documentary if any of that actually means Onision did anything to Kai. I just think this part of it was very, very misleading. A couple things I like, but again, I want to talk about where this is misleading. I bet I would bet that there's been abuse between the two of them physically. I would absolutely bet it. I think Kai's in a position where Kai can't talk. I think that's where Kai's at. I feel like Kai probably feels very stuck. I would not be surprised if the next iteration of the Onision saga is Kai finally breaks away, starts talking, and then things can actually start happening. The problem is, and I like and this is where I like what the documentary said, even though I think what they kind of put out there is misleading. It can take many years for an abuse victim to really come to terms with what's happened to them. And not just what's happened, not just the big things, but even the small stuff that's really damaging and bad around it. I knew I grew up in abuse. I knew I grew up in a home that was not good, in a situation that was not good. I knew that my mom had us around a man, her boyfriend, that was not a good person. I didn't fully understand all of that, and I think I'm still figuring it out. And I have a video about this where it was probably over the last couple years that I had to realize that my mother's boyfriend, even though I was never physically touched, was grooming me. It was a form of grooming. And I didn't realize it. And I think part of why I didn't realize it was because I was never actually touched, right? So you can be somebody, an adult will take you through the grooming process and never actually do anything. And this is something it took me a while to see and to understand. Funny enough, I've actually talked to family members about it who say they don't believe me, even though they watched it happen. And then when I'm like, you saw it happen, they'd be like, well, that's just how men are. I'm like, and it's funny. So I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that to this family member. So if you're telling me when your daughter, who is, let's say when they're 10, you would date a man who's in their late 30s who would talk about sex to them and joke nonstop about sex and then admit they want to have sex with your 10-year-old. Well, no, that's horrible. Well, why are you saying then that's just how men are? Well, some men just do that. So I'm lying, even though they admit that, yeah, what happened to me was okay, and it wouldn't be okay if it was their child that it happened to, but when it's me, well, some men just do that. Very interesting how we seem to sometimes we cherry pick where abuse is and where it isn't, where it's valid and where it's not valid. I find that very interesting. And we tend to do that a lot with victims, right? Well, this behavior is never okay. But if there's somebody who says it happened to them, well, because it's you, there are extenuating circumstances, right? And you know what the hard thing is about abuse a lot of times? If the person who's abusing you is really good at it, they're going to make sure there's no way to leave any evidence. That's the hard part. They're going to make sure there isn't an evidence trail. Like in my situation, we didn't grow up with cameras shoved up our butts. But, and I don't say that, it's not, I'm sorry, that might sound mean to the younger generation. It's not, or it's not my intention. But I mean, like, y'all had phones that could do magic when you were 3, right? We didn't have that. I think we got our first actual, camcorder when I was, I think it was 14, 15. Yeah. And we only had one. And it was weird. It was one of these things where it was like a screen that you could kind of do this with and flip with. So you kind of looked at it through just a big screen. It was a real weird thing. But, we didn't have that. And we didn't have social media. Nobody cared. Unless something was really, unless somebody really made a media stink about something, which was hard to do unless you had the connections, injustices that happened just happened. And that's why a lot of our generation kind of, in many ways, I think, grew up traumatized. Because we would go through trauma, suck it up, buttercup. You're not going to get counseling. Nobody believes you. Nobody has the money for you. And not everybody grew up that way, but a lot of us grew up that way. And if you were a minority, good luck times 10. People acted like you deserved whatever society was doing to you. Awful. I get sick thinking about the ways in which we grew up. And what's amazing is I look and I'm like, what's the deciding factor of all this? Technology. The fact that we've had advancement in technology with something like social media has allowed injustices to come to light and had voices like never before. It's not like Hollywood really gives minorities too much voice. Minorities only are really allowed a voice in Hollywood if they can be stereotypical, or if we're talking about direct slavery that happened a few hundred years ago. Like, that's the only forms of racism. You know what I'm saying? Really bothers me. But anyways, I'm getting a bit sidetracked. But I thought this was very interesting because I've been saying this for a while about Kai. I think when it comes to Onision ever possibly getting justice, because at this point, you know, this whole situation with Chris Hansen and the girls has been so done up one side, down another, and people have tried to discredit them. And look, some of the girls, especially Shiloh, people have done some stuff I'm not going to sit here and condone or stand by, right? It doesn't mean their stories aren't real. And I feel like we put the ultimate responsibility for the victims to be victimized and then act perfect. But you can't act perfect when you're a victim because you're under trauma. So there's a real interesting dynamic that happens. The person that is weak has to be the stronger person out of everybody for them to even be believed that an atrocity happened to them. Here's the thing with Kai. I think with Kai, I'm hoping, you know, we know Kai has an anxiety disorder, and this is not to put that down or make fun of that. I am hoping Kai's anxiety will take a hold of Kai enough so that Kai says, I'm done. I personally think, and I don't know all of Kai's health history, health makeup, I wouldn't assume, I wouldn't diagnose, I'm not in that position. I would think a lot of Kai's anxiety comes from the fact that Kai's never been able to fully develop into the person that Kai really wants to be. It's always been serving onion and taking care of the children and whatever Onision or Greg's needs and wants and all of his narcissistic whims. I'm not saying that's all of it, but I think that would be a huge contributing factor. And as a result, I would say my hope and prayer for Kai is that Kai at some point goes through enough of the anxiety being so crippling that Kai doesn't have a choice but to say, I have to step away from this. I have to step away from him. And I think Kai fully separating himself, right? Himself, Kai's self from Onision, I think that's going to give Kai the space to process, to get the insight needed. But guys, I had a really bad relationship that was on and off for 10 years. Horribly abusive. Horribly abusive. The first couple years I was living there, and then it was a back and forth after that of kind of dating from separate residences. It's weird. I regret it. I regret ever, especially after I left the first time, ever kind of doing the dating and going back. But there was something in my soul that did it because I didn't understand, and I wanted to understand. I needed to understand, and I couldn't fully grasp and conceptualize what is happening. I think sometimes we can really have a lot of regrets when we look back at different things in our lives and why did I make this decision, or why did I continue to make this decision for so long? I feel like I've made peace with the fact that it took 10 years simply because something in my soul wanted to learn the lessons that I know now. And for some reason, I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't get it. I tried. I made myself crazy trying to understand what was fully happening. Part of it was this person, one of the things that helped me break away was they finally showed me who they were. This person, almost everything about them, except for some of the talents and some of their intelligence, was a lie. They are a good person. They are a godly person. They're super spiritual. They're trying to follow whatever God's path is for them. Everybody's out to get them. Everybody's out to attack them. Here's how you're supposed to live. Here's how you're supposed to interact in relationships. Cheating is horrible. And I watched this person unravel every one of these moral superiorities that they said makes them on some level better and everybody else lower than them. And on top of that, I watched them say, these are my non-negotiables. You can never cross these lines. Cross every single one with me. And it took me 10 years. And part of it was I had to catch the person in the act. And when I remember when it happened, when I finally saw the unraveling, and I was like, so the thing I had to learn was you were all a lie. And you are so insecure and mentally ill that you will hurt everyone and everything in your path and blame everybody you can. It was funny because this same person taught me to take off my rose-colored glasses that some people are evil simply because they enjoy it. And the sad thing is he was one of those people. And he'll never admit it to himself. He'll never. I think there's some remorse, but it's like so small and it doesn't really take up much of their time, because what they can do, and Greg does this, I've noticed, they'll use every single weakness they have against you as to why it's okay to degrade you and treat you less than human and you're a piece of trash. And on some level, you deserve it. I remember when he would do things to me and I would say, you know, you want this ultimate, you know, people to be ultimately sorry to you in this big dramatic way, but you never even really show that you really feel that bad or that sorry. And I remember this excuse he would give. Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but he would say, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and he would say, well, God knows the situation. God knows I'm struggling, and God knows I'm trying, and God really knows how you are. And I was like, oh, so you're really not sorry. Somehow in your mind, even when you do something wrong to me, it's all my fault, because God understands you better. I know Onision isn't like that with religion. I'm not saying that, but I am saying we do watch Onision. He will use every weakness against you to try to own you, control you, manipulate you. And it's hard. How do you argue with, oh yeah, well, you're this, this, and this? Well, I kind of am. And there's a lot of mental gymnastics that go on. My hope is Kai takes space. We've heard Kai's moved out, but those are just rumors. And those are rumors by like anti-Onision people, right? And look, I've met some really great anti-Os and I've met horrible ones. You know, and I don't really want to go into any detail, you know, I really don't on any of those people. I think I've spoken enough about it. But my hope is that Kai hopefully actually did leave. We don't know. And if Kai either did leave or I pray, and if they didn't, I pray they leave. And I pray if they leave, they take all of that space to figure things out and to understand things. And I think once Kai realizes everything, Kai's going to realize at some point, hopefully, there's going to be some justice. And Kai better start singing and talking. Otherwise, Kai's going to be implicated right alongside of him. I believe Kai was a perpetrator of many things, but not because Kai wanted to be, and maybe Kai didn't even fully understand what was going on. Kai just did what Kai knew to keep Onision calm, not fully realizing the ramifications of what Kai was doing. Now, maybe Kai was fully horrible and complicit. I don't know. But because Kai's the younger party, I would like to believe. I'd say this. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. And I know some people have criticized me lately for giving the benefit of the doubt to maybe some people they think don't deserve it. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt because I know what it's like to not have it and be mistreated so horribly. I think the next part of this is going to be Kai stepping forward. And I hope that happens for Kai's sake and for their children's sake, and so that, you know, the people who actually went through this can get some justice out of it. And, you know, having generations of girls that were brainwashed to think this behavior from Onion is okay. Okay, guys, if you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up to support me, like the video, subscribe, and hit notifications so you can know when I upload. Also, comment. What do you guys think? Do you guys think I'm right here? Do you think I'm off base? Like, I wanted just to open this up as a conversation about hopefully Kai getting out. But yeah, I just thought this was really misleading. None of this means that Kai's actually, that this is any reported abuse necessarily. I just thought it was interesting. Why didn't you show any other documents? Why didn't you show the details of it? But that's the media. The media is going to lie and mislead. A lot of YouTubers will lie and mislead. It's just how they do, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. So let me know what you think, if I'm right on, if I missed something. And guys, please share this content with people you think might like it, might jive with it, because I just want to reach as many people as I can and grow my business. That would make me happy. So thank you for helping me with that. Okay, guys, more videos are coming. So until they do, take care. Blessings. I'm wishing everybody lots of love. And until the next video, I'm giving you guys hugs, mwah, and kisses. Stay safe. I'll see you soon. Bye.